Hello, this is Kade and welcome to a new weekly series of Star Citizen topics. This is going to be the first series with which I plan to bring some regular content to this channel, hopefully on a weekly basis. I hope this series will help you all to become more informed around Star Citizen, and I'll also use it to critique some matters that I deem are in need of improvement, as one should always be critiquing that which they love. To start off with episode 1, I will be addressing revenue generation. Now disclaimers are going to be needed here, as a lot of this is going to be down to speculation, as the economy and most related gameplay loops are not in the game, or if they are far from final. Now if you never paid attention during economic classes, I cannot blame you, they tend to be rather dull. However, a lot of the basic knowledge is going to be really of use, not just in real life, but also here in Star Citizen. When we are talking about revenue generation, we're simply talking about making money. A basic example would be the bottle of water that you buy. You currently pay 5 USC for this. This 5 USC is revenue for the business that sold you the bottle of water. Now it's important to realize that this is not profit. They all have paid, say, 2 USC to buy that bottle wholesale, and on top of that, they all need to pay for their storefront and staff amongst other various items. Now, revenue and profit, of course, and losses go hand in hand, but revenue potential is often an easier thing to look at than profit. That said, it's generally safe to assume that the higher the revenue potential, the higher potential for more profit, so the margins might be different, as that is a whole other topic again. In Star Citizen, your means to generate revenue are largely down to 3 things: skills, wealth, and assets. Skills are really broad, like mathematics are always useful, but in gameplay terms, think more of things like piloting skills, engineering skills, mining skills. These are the skills that you could use for your own gain directly, or you could rent these skills out to other players or NPCs. Of course, if you're going to be renting out these skills, you're probably going to make less revenue than using them for yourself. However, to use these skills for yourself, you likely will be needing wealth, as in UEC, and assets like ships, ground vehicles, outpost on the moon or planet, or a combination thereof. The old saying, you need money to make money, is quite often true in that regard. All of these 3 could be bought, however, skills would require buying training, so they may be less easily acquired by some people than others. Wealth in the form of USC can also be bought, but if you look at the value you get, it's rather poor, and hence it's ill-advised to transform your euros or dollars into USC. As much as you need money to make money, assets are much more powerful in the game, and that of course means we finally come down to that which a lot of people say Star Citizen is all about: ships and JPEGs. When we talk about ships and their potential to generate revenue, it's quite often the case of the more pricey and sizable the ship, the more potential it will have to generate revenue. When we talk about ships and their potential to generate revenue, it's quite often the case the more pricey and sizable the ship, the more potential it will have to generate revenue. There is however a reason I picked an 890 jump as the thumbnail for this video. It is what I expect to be an excellent example of a big and pricey ship that will not be generating nearly the revenue you would expect looking at price and size alone. The main means for a ship like the 890 to generate revenue is going to be to charter the vessel, which is something quite a few yacht owners do with theirs on Earth to offset the cost. Now I fully expect there to be a demand for this in game, be it from NPCs or players. However, there's a fairly good number of 890s out there, and the demand market is going to be reasonably small, so the potential to generate revenue is not really going to match the price tag or the size of the 890. The same could be said for its cargo capacity. Yes, it has a fair bit, but when you look at the size and cost of the vessel, it doesn't add up. On the other hand, we have a ship like the Caterpillar. It's half the length and a fraction of the mass of an 890, and comes in at 14.5% of the cost of an 890 in-game, or 31% when we look at real money prices. However, its capacity to generate revenue currently, and likely in the future, as well, is greater than that of the 890, be it as a pure cargo hauler, or as something else if the promised modules show up. So with this example, we can see one needs to pay close attention to the roles the ship can fulfill and what potential those could have to generate revenue. Beside that, you also need to consider if you want the ship in your fleet to generate revenue at all. It is perfectly fine to just have a ship for fun, so don't feel forced to generate revenue with your ships, but you should have a ship or multiple ships in your fleet that are going to be your means of generating revenue. They just don't all need to do it. After all, maintaining ships, fueling them and replacing components is going to cost UEC. On top of this, in Star Citizen, your equipment will wear in such a way that's not fully recoverable. This is unique and means depreciation is a factor that also needs to be considered as a cost in game. This is a contradiction to most other games where hitting the repair button will make an item like new again. As a small side note, this is also why LTI or lifetime insurance has even less value than you might think. So take a good look at your fleet. Mark which ships you want for personal fun use and which ships you plan to use to generate revenue. Now if you only have one ship, make sure it does both. Or if that's not an option, make sure you have a ship that generates revenue so you can work your way up in game to buy the ship that you want to have fun. Now this covers some of the reasoning behind it all. Now let's take a look at some examples of how one can currently generate revenue, but also in the future. Transportation. Goods and people always need to be moved, from a small box to starliners filled with people and Hull East that transport enough supplies to feed a planet in one go. If you plan to do transportation, you'll be taking contracts from players or NPCs to fly goods from point A to point B or through more complex routing. Your only investment is your time and your ship. Your revenue is whatever the contract will be paying out. Trading. With trading, you invest your wealth to buy goods and move them to another place. Once there, you're gonna be selling them at a markup. The revenue is technically the value of the goods you sell, and hence will be a lot higher than transportation. However, the real matter here is that a smart trader can earn a lot more in profits than a transport player could do in total revenue. This is down to the higher risk that trading requires due to the higher investment. Ships that come to mind here are the previously mentioned Caterpillar and the Miss Hull series, but also ships like the C2 Hercules, Freelancer and Starliner. There are others, but this is just a small selection. Now do keep in mind that some of these ships cannot land, so they can only trade between space stations. These ships tend to carry a lot more cargo, but they'll have fewer options available in routes versus the ships that can land anywhere. Both transportation and trading are currently available in game. The transportation is limited to moving small boxes around. Two more examples would include mining. Industry needs to be fed with raw materials, and mining is the go-to means to obtain them, from small high-value hand-mined items to giant capital ships that consume entire asteroids for breakfast. The revenue is simply the value of the goods you sell, either raw or post the refining process. Salvaging. Ships go boom in space, or they just get damaged beyond economical repair or even retrieval. And that's when the salvaging crews arrive, from stripping out still working components to chewing up and grinding up an entire hull. Revenue generation for the components is down to their quality and state, while the raw materials are again down to market demand. Ships that come to mind here are the Orion, Reclaimer, Mole, Vulture and Prospector, and on the ground we currently have the Craighead Rock and also our available hand tools, which can also be used in space. Industry will always need to be fed, and an ongoing war means an increased demand for resources and likely also leaves a lot of salvage behind. Currently, mining is available in the game with the hand tools, the rock, the prospector and the mole. The Reclaimer salvaging ship is available in the game, but a gameplay loop has not been introduced. I'll round it off with two more examples that we have some decent knowledge of. Combat. The universe is a dangerous place, and whether you plan to be making it safer or more dangerous, revenue is to be made on both sides of the law from various activities. Do keep in mind, quite often the risk doesn't really match the reward and your income can be quite unstable. Services. Services are always going to be a means of generating revenue, and there are a ton of options available here. You can think of things like refueling, repairing, search and rescue, medical gameplay, and more. Revenue, of course, is going to depend on what services you're offering, but more precisely, where you're going to be offering them. It's safe to assume that the more dangerous the region, the higher the potential is going to be for your revenue. Combat ships are naturally a dime in a dozen right now. Totally different jobs are only slowly trickling in, with a lot of them being in a basic form. That said, if you're after the pew-pew, there will be a lot of means and places to turn those skills into UEC. As for the services, we currently know a lot of this is coming. But at this time of recording, none of these gameplay loops are really in game, outside of a minor example in the form of medical gameplay with a ship like the Cutlass Rat that has a medical bay which can be used as a respawn point or to heal yourself up. I'd say that later one is not really useful that much, with the medipans being a fairly good means to fully heal up currently. This is of course going to change. This video is meant to give you some ideas of options and also to stress the importance that you have a means of generating revenue in game. This does not mean that you need to go out there and spend hundreds on a new ship. Even if you only have an Aurora, think about how you can use it to generate revenue. You can also join up with an organization where you can use your skills as a source of revenue without needing all the ships yourself right away. In the end, it's a game and it should be fun, but like with any MMO, you will need to spend time to make credits that allows you to do the things you want within the game. Ideally, you make credits doing what you enjoy, but well, some things are more likely to cost you than to earn you depending on your skills. I hope by the end of this video you have become a little wiser of the universe that is Star Citizen. If you have any feedback for me, please leave them in the form of a comment down below. If you feel like it, a like always gives her a warm and fuzzy feeling, cause they're like internet brownie points, and who doesn't love brownies? If you wish to chatter about all things Star Citizen and also other science fiction, there's a Discord link in the video description to my server. It's a little bit empty now, but I'm sure we can slowly fill her up. With that all said, I would like to thank you very much for watching. This has been Kade, and I'm signing off.